Hey everyone, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at my restored 1993 GMC Jimmy SLT. As you guys know, I've been working on this thing for a while, and at this point, I can honestly say that I've done everything that I wanted to do to it. It's turned out fantastic, I'm very proud of it, and I cannot wait to show it off. Plus, being that this is the series finale, this is also technically my first ever finished project, so that's pretty cool. I also want to extend a sincere thanks to those of you who have shown the series so much love over the last year and a half or so. I really wasn't sure how the series would do, but it blew up way beyond my expectations. I guess there's a lot of people like me out there that are just tired of seeing so many expensive cars and supercars and just kind of unrealistic things floating around YouTube, as far as the everyday person. So this series was incredibly rewarding. I learned a lot, and it's going to make, the other projects that I have going on right now and, hopefully future projects go even smoother with, even more cool ideas and whatnot over time. So again, big thanks. Of course, a huge thanks to O'Reilly Auto Parts as well for not only their involvement in the Jimmy series, but for just being huge supporters of what I love to do. It really means a lot. If you guys have any projects going on yourselves, head to O'ReillyAuto.com and use the code SOBKyle20 to take 20% off of purchases of $100 or more. And so, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop on in, start her up, and let her run. 1993 was the second to last year for all of the first generation S10 based SUVs. An all-new S10 was launched for 1994, but an all-new replacement for the SUVs wasn't launched until 1995. Surprisingly, there were a lot of personalization options for these trucks. Quite a range of colors, including two-tone options like this one. You have forest green metallic over steel gray. There's also gray body side molding with gold trim. Inside, you also had a bunch of options, which I'll talk about a little bit later. This one, being a top-line SLT, has all of the leather upholstery. I love this interior. It is so comfortable. It was already in great shape, but I made this thing look factory fresh, and I'm just so proud of it. In 1993, the Jimmy was offered in either 2- or 4-door body styles with a choice between 2- or 4-wheel drive. There were also a handful of trim options, including the base SL, the SLS, the SLE, and of course, the top-of-the-line SLT. This example has all of the available factory options, including the upgraded Vortec 4.3-liter V6. It was a really nice package for the day. Alright, let's climb on in and fire it up. Those of you that know me know that I just love older vehicles. It's an experience. It's just something about the old school nature of it. The ride and handling, the overstuffed seats, the lack of any meaningful safety features. I don't know. It's not for everyone, that's for sure, but especially if you can become competent enough to work on the vehicles or take on a project and restore it yourself and be able to experience all of the results of that hard work, it's just so satisfying. I drive new vehicles all the time with the press cars and the reviews and whatnot, and every now and then, I'll be honest, it's just nice to have a change of pace, kind of take a mental break, so to speak, from all the technology and everything that's out nowadays, and just experience something simple. Now let's go ahead and pop the hood. By the time 1993 rolled around, there was only one engine offered in the Jimmy, and that was the 4.3-liter V6. However, depending on which option package the truck came with, there were two different variants. On one hand, you had the LB4, which was a throttle body fuel-injected 4.3. It made 165 horsepower and 235 pound-feet of torque. However, this one has the L35, a central port fuel-injected 4.3, which raised output significantly to 200 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Also known as the Vortec, the L35 boasted a lot of enhancements over the LB4, primarily significantly improved airflow. Like, that is a really cool intake manifold. I have replaced almost everything in this engine bay. The engine is new, all of the sensors are new, the air conditioning system is new. The entire ignition system is new, running upgraded AGM batteries front and rear, along with upgraded power and ground wires to support the audio system, as well as a newer style high output GM alternator that's cranking out about 315 amps. Of course, K&N air filter, headers, full custom exhaust, brand new booster and master cylinder, radiator, AC condenser, just so much stuff that I'm missing. It's a long list. You've got to admit, it sure cleans up nice too. I have a full video of putting this engine together already in the series, but just in case you missed it, we got custom powder coated parts, gold valve covers, intake manifold, silver accessory drive brackets. Just to give it a little bit of contrast, the reason I went for gold was to try to match the body side molding. One thing I never did was give you all a proper demo of the custom exhaust system. After I got the engine in, the summer just got crazy and it just always kept slipping my mind. So we're gonna do that right quick. I'll give a bunch of revs and then we'll take this thing out on the road and talk about it some more. In my opinion, 4.3s either sound kinda eh or bad. Straight piping is also a no-go. They sound terrible. But I truly believe this is the best sounding setup on a 4.3 that I've ever heard, not just because this is my truck, but I'm running headers, a custom Y pipe, a high flow cat, and a MagnaFlow 3-chamber muffler, and I think it turned out really, really good. So let's get a bunch of revs, and I want to hear what you guys think. right, let's get a quick acceleration run so you can hear the exhaust under a load. It's a pretty sweet setup, I think. A lot of people were asking me whether I noticed a power difference with the headers and the exhaust, and honestly, I don't. If there is, it's not a huge difference. Even though the Vortec motor had pretty good power, I think, for the time that it was made, the four-wheel drive and the four-wheel drive four-door, I mean, it was the heaviest version of these trucks, so you're not going to notice a huge difference. It's mostly for the sound and the experience, and that's why I did it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Out of everything I did to this truck, I think I'm most proud of the interior because it was already at a fantastic starting point. Like, it was really nice considering the truck had 200,000 miles on it, so it didn't take a whole lot. So I fixed what needed to be fixed and upgraded it here and there just to give it a little zing, so to speak. But man, it looks really, really nice. The SLT came with leather upholstery on the top portions of the seats as well as the door panels. The seats are extraordinarily comfortable. The headrests are fixed. It's like you're sitting in a big armchair. Because this leather is so soft and supple, believe it or not, it's actually really hard to find this upholstery still in good shape after all these years. I actually had to have this section replaced because it was cracked. I had the rest of the seats, both the driver and the passenger side, restored to try to preserve the original upholstery, and I think it came out pretty good. The driver's seat is 6-way power adjusting. You have manual recline as well as power lumbar. The passenger seat is manually adjusting, but it too has power lumbar. I still can't get over how nice these seats look. Again, the passenger seat still has all of its original leather, and it's in phenomenal shape, of course, professionally restored. I also took the seat belts out and gave them a thorough steam cleaning, so everything looks like new. So much stuff was done to the interior that you can't even see also. A while back, I did a video of restoring the interior where I gutted everything out. Thankfully, the carpet just needed a good steam clean, and it was pretty much ready to go. But while everything was out, I added a lot more sound deadening from my friends over at Second Skin, so the Jimmy is not only quieter than it was before, but it's better insulated for the audio system so you don't get all those rattles. I also went through the whole interior and replaced every single thing that was broken, so everything works just as it should. There's no burned out light bulbs, no broken anything. It's awesome. It's just as good, if not better, than it was brand new, because let's face it, it's an early 90s GM product, and quality of materials and, you know, fit and finish and stuff was never their strong suit, but I think it did pretty good, all things considered. I really like these, so I put some stainless steel reinforcement plates in the armrests because the armrests over time tend to break. They have a plastic structure underneath that cracks, so with that little plate in there, they will never break. Like a lot of old padded dashes, the ones in S10s, Blazers, Jimmys, Bravadas, basically any of them, they do crack over time depending on how they're stored. Now, the one in the Jimmy is actually in phenomenal shape. It's the cleanest one I've seen in person. There are a few small hairline cracks here and there around the typical areas, like the speakers and the defrost vents, so I just got this dash mat from Covercraft to cover it up. Fits pretty good overall. I think it looks good, it matches the interior, and it prevents it from ever getting worse. By far the coolest mod I did to this thing, in my opinion, was swapping in the digital instrument cluster. This was from another Jimmy that I had, the first one I bought actually, which was a 1994 model. It was more or less a beater truck, but it led to the project as you see it today. It involved a bunch of wiring, but I think it was definitely worth the effort. Of course, I've got a full video on that process. It's just so cool. It's so 80s. A really nice benefit with having the digital cluster is that you also have a provision for a tachometer. There's so many things things I want to talk about, so let's just dive into the exterior. One of the videos I did way early on was an exterior detailing video. I wanted to maybe paint this at some point, but at the end of the day, I just really couldn't justify it because the original paint, while not perfect, is like a happy medium of nice. It looks really nice when it's all cleaned up and stuff. It's driver quality, but you don't have to worry about it if it gets like a little chip on it or something. So, like I said, nice happy medium. But that detailing video actually just passed 1 million views, which is mind-blowing. Thank you guys so much for the support. That is the most watched video in the series, so that's really awesome. There was a lot going on this past summer, and it definitely affected my ability to get regular content out there, so I did have to get some other things done on the Jimmy off camera just to further it along so I can, you know, try to finish it up. After all, this is my first finished project, and I was really excited to just wrap something up for once. But outside, I also replaced the wheels, so they're still the original 15x7 5-spoke 4x4 wheels, but they have been refurbished to better than new conditions. So they have, you know, the black painted pockets, everything's been repolished and clear coated, and with the Pirelli all-terrain tires that I have, everything fills out really, really nice. So as far as other, you know, stuff that I did to the exterior, a few things that I never showed on camera, I ended up replacing the brackets that hold the rear glass onto the body, because they're made of cheap pot metal and they can crack. So instead of just replacing the brackets, I actually found an original S10 Blazer spoiler in the junkyard, which have the little brackets built in. So I just put the spoiler on. It looks really cool, makes it a little bit more sporty, and it's just got a nice look to it. In the front, you guys saw in the last episode, I replaced the front bumper, the air dam, and the grille. But a while back, I also added a bug deflector because I like the look. I think it gives like a cool old school vibe, and it also makes the edge of the hood a bit prettier because the pinstriping was a little messed up. It had rock chips and stuff, you know. It just added a little icing to the cake, so to speak. I've replaced all the worn out weather stripping, including the belt lines across the front doors, the door weather seals, the rain guards, and a few other things here and there. So it seals up a lot nicer, nothing leaks, it's a bit quieter than it was before, so that's really nice. As far as the suspension and steering and all of that, it's mostly brand new. So I have a new steering box, I replaced the rag joint, the entire front suspension is brand new, all new bushings, tie rods, pitman arm, idler arm, like literally everything is new. This is a torsion bar front suspension with control arms. In the back, you have 2-stage multi-leaf springs. I got Bilstein shock absorbers all the way around. I replaced the wheel hubs. Like I'm not kidding. Like everything is new. The only thing that I didn't do is the rear suspension because I didn't feel like there was anything wrong, and there's no indications to say that anything is worn out. So I just kind of let that go. But the brakes are another thing that I had to do off camera. The brakes are brand new all the way around. Discs internally ventilated in front with single piston calipers and drums in the rear. You know, stopping performance is exactly what you would expect for something like this. You know, the drum disc conversion is perfectly fine. Obviously, there are upgrades out there like twin piston caliper upgrades up front. You can do drum to disc conversions in the rear, but I didn't feel like any of that, you know, was worth it for this, being that it wasn't like getting any extra performance modifications. So all of that feels like new. The suspension feels like new. I also replaced all of the body bushings with poly bushings, so everything feels very stable, very sure-footed. Doesn't feel too stiff. It's nice overall. On the left side of the instrument cluster, you have a push-button 4-wheel drive. If I remember, it's a vacuum-controlled system, but it's as simple as just tapping it. It engages. You have to put it in neutral before you can hit 4 low, but just tap it again, and you're back in 2-wheel drive. It works perfect. Rear wiper switch, sentinel, lighting dimmer, headlight, parking lights. All of the outside lights are actually converted to LED, and I'll show you guys that in just a moment. Rear defrost is down below. I also replaced the turn signal switch because it was broken, so that works perfect. Part of the problem with that switch also caused the hazard switch to not work, so I replaced all of the internals. The most significant mod to this truck was installing a custom audio system. I did a 3-part series with that, so in total, this truck has 15 speakers. 8 across the front door panels, 4 across the rear door panels. I ended up upgrading the dash speakers as well to bring the soundstage a little bit higher, and there's a subwoofer out back. The bezel looks amazing. It was custom made to fit this specific radio. And of course, we got all the modern features like Apple CarPlay, hands-free telephone, all sorts of stuff. It's a really nice system. The Bluetooth microphone is located above the rearview mirror. There's also a bass knob right there to remotely control the sub output. It's tucked in right underneath the dash within easy reach of the driver. Exterior mod by far is the total LED conversion. I did a whole video on that. So everything front and rear is LED. This thing now has the best headlamps out of any vehicle I currently own, which is fantastic. To be honest, the factory sealed beam halogen headlamps aren't bad. They're actually pretty good, but I found a set of Grody 5x7 replacement sealed beam LED headlamps that are DOT approved through O'Reilly Auto Parts, and you know, they're simple plug and play and they're just amazing. I'm actually thinking about taking them off of this and putting it on to the S10 350 swap, but we'll see. But just the LEDs in general, you know, it's not a cheap upgrade, but I think it definitely adds a lot of safety for older vehicles if you get the right equipment. And you know, especially out back, they didn't put third brake lights on these until 1994, the last year of production. So with having the brighter tail lamps and stuff, it just makes everything a little easier, or you stand out more at night, which I think is nice. The climate controls are on the right side of the instrument cluster bezel. It's just a few simple levers. Right beneath that is the power mirror switch. There's also power windows and power locks. I wish these little vents would make a comeback too. They're really nice on a hot day because they keep your legs cool. The steering wheel is wrapped in leather. It's a big 4-spoke wheel with manual tilt. I actually had this wheel professionally restored, just like the seats, so the leather looks like it just came from the factory. Down in the center of the drivetrain tunnel, you have heater outlets on either side of that center storage tray. I also routed the cable for the phone up through there, so it's nice and tucked away. There's a 12-volt power outlet right there, and of course, a lot of storage in the middle. The cup holders aren't the most useful thing out there. At least it does have cup holders, though. Most S10s did not, or they were even more shallow than those. There's also a lot of console space, but one of the weak points is a flimsy plastic hinge that breaks, so I put a metal hinge there to reinforce it, so it works as it needs to now and doesn't fall off. There's a manually dimming rearview mirror with reading lamps below, and a full overhead console with additional lighting, a spot to put a garage door opener, and additional storage for sunglasses and the like. The glove box is lockable and it offers a pretty decent amount of space. It's also illuminated, and there's 2 little cup holder trays. One thing that I really like about these GM vehicles is that they had an identification tag in here that showed all of the RPO codes of what the truck originally came with. There's some illumination right there, And since we have the custom radio setup going right here, which I deleted the cigarette lighter, I also relocated the rear window release button, which used to be over here. Now it's there, very much like factory. The visors feature illuminated vanity mirrors with little auxiliary shades that pop out to the right. If you want to swing this one over to the driver's door, you can also bring this top one down so you can get covered from all sides. These four doors were actually pretty generous with interior space, but I don't think the back seat in this Jimmy was used a whole lot because when I got it, it was already in near mint condition. When it came to doing the restoration work on the leather, there was just some scratches and scuffs that needed to be touched up, but that's pretty much it. Let's hop inside. The Jimmy can seat up to 5 people. There aren't any headrests back here, unfortunately, but you have a very, very cushy back seat. I'm 5'10", and with a comfortable seating position for myself in front, I probably have about 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches of leg space. Head space, I'd probably say a good 3.5 inches. In the SLE and SLT, the back seat had a fold-down armrest, also very cushy. Like I was saying earlier, with the simplicity of everything, you got these narrow pillars that allow for excellent visibility all the way around. There's storage pockets on the backs of the seats. You have some overhead illumination, as well as coat hooks and grip handles on either side. Just like the front doors, the rear doors have a leather padded section, as well as a padded armrest. Last but not least, let's check out the trunk. Here's another little subtle thing that I did off camera that nobody would ever notice unless I pointed it out. This is not the factory plastic handle. This is a billet aluminum replacement that's a lot stronger than the factory stuff, which can break off obviously as plastic deteriorates, but this is also a replacement part as well. These can gouge out in the middle and actually cause the glass to squeak and shake and whatnot, so I replaced this section, grabbed an extra one just in case, so all of that fits like brand new. Once the glass is open, you just twist this handle on the tailgate to the right and lower it down. These have pretty good cargo space overall too. Obviously some of that's been taken up by the custom audio system, but in my opinion it's still rather functional. With regards to the spare tire, you had 2 different options from the factory, either externally mounted or internally mounted. My first Jimmy, the 94, was external, this one was internal. So obviously with the audio system I had to remove the spare tire, so I'm trying to figure that out still, but there are companies that make hitch-mounted tire carriers. I also considered a roof basket, but I'm probably not going to do that. I also, early on in the series, had considered swapping over the factory spare tire carrier to this one, but with all the extra reinforcing and the welded nuts and stuff that go inside the body, I thought it was way more trouble than it was worth, but it is an option if you're savvy enough, I suppose. I love how everything was trimmed in back here to kind of match the theme with everything up in the front. It does look very factory-like. We put the amplifiers behind the left side panel. The Sundown SAE 2000D on top is for the subwoofer, while the SAX 200.4 is for the rest of the speakers. On the right side, we've got all of the crossovers for the door speakers, as well as that secondary AGM battery. Well everyone, that is going to wrap it up for this video and for the Jimmy series. I hope y'all enjoyed. Please don't forget to leave a like below. It really helps the video out a lot. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so because I have a lot more content where that came from. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.